All right, cool. All right, we're back. Morse Code Podcast, Dan Morse, Soapy Priap, episode
35.
35.
Shout out to KD.
KD. Shout out KD. Episode 35.
And rest in peace, Reggie Lewis.
Mm-hmm. He's 7 now, right? KD?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah,
You know
I don't know what the relation is. Maybe the
What was he
7
in
train
college?
in New York.
Was he 35 in college?
Yeah.
35 divided by 5 is 7.
Mm-hmm. Now we just got to figure out where a 5
Now he's got to figure out if that means anything. But anyway, so yeah, shout out KD, big fan of the show. We actually interact with KD on Twitter a lot lately. Us tweeting him, but still,
it's mostly one way. But yeah,
it's 100% one way.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully that construction process begins soon to turn that into a two-way street.
Yes. I think there's some zoning issues, if I remember
A
correctly.
lot of legality. We'll have Brian handle the legality part of it. I don't want to get into anything like that right now. Too late in the evening.
If anyone could handle that, it's Brian.
And ironically, if there's one person who couldn't handle it, it would also be Brian.
It's definitely still Brian.
He's definitely the man for the job, one way or the other. But anyway, let's get right into it. I kind of want to get right down to business tonight. So similar, I guess, kind of format to the last few episodes we've had. We've had guests on. We do have a great guest tonight, interview that, we'll get to somewhat shortly, but there's still a decent amount of stuff we wanted to touch on. So at the time of recording, it's Sunday, August 16th? August 16th.
August 38th. Oh, 16th, sorry.
16th, correct. And we got NBA playoffs starting tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this, which is awesome. Like, this is just all in all, this is a pretty good time to be a sports fan with all things considered. Hockey playoffs are starting. Basketball, well, technically, not for nothing, the basketball playoffs technically started yesterday with the playing game, the Blazers and the Grizzlies. Mm-hmm. Sick game, by the way.
I'd agree with that.
I think that's a unanimous decision there between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious to see how that went, kind of when they talked about this playing thing at the beginning of the year. I don't know. Like a lot of people, I just assumed it was going to be Pelicans and someone, probably Pelicans and Grizzlies. And I talked about this over the weekend on Twitter or something, but dude, if you remember when it came out, the Pelicans schedule was like beyond cake. It was like, come on, like this is almost a little too much. And then the Grizzlies schedule, I remember, was tough for the most part. And I'm thinking like some Grizzlies games I watched over the summer, they played good competition and they still held their ground. But no, that was pretty dope. I mean, Dame, we've talked about Dame on the handles a lot lately. He's just going off, dude. He's on a mission. He's just so fun to watch. And some of the memes and like screen grabs and stuff of him coming out are great. Him going back and forth with Skip Bayless is outstanding. I don't know if you followed that at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally this 67-year-old guy like asking Damian Lillard to come kick his ass like in the studio.
It's
like not even it's not even like a I don't know what you want to call it, like a media thing anymore. It's like, dude, like you're just being stupid and like just being ridiculous.
Imagine if all the people that Skip Bayless went at just decided to whoop his ass one day together. KD, LeBron, and now Damian Lillard.
I hate to say it. Well, at least out of those three, I could see Dame like actually showing up at Fox Sports. Not to kick his ass, but like, hey, like let's have a conversation about this, like men. Like, I don't care if we do it on the show or not. Like, you've been talking a lot of shit. Like, what?
He's the one where like on the other side of it, he's the least he's the realist. Like he's the least artificial. He's actually
a kid from where's he? He's from Oakland, I think, or Compton area.
Yep.
Like
Oakland.
He's not someone to fuck around with. I wouldn't fuck with Dame. But anyway. I wanted to touch on this too as we go into the playoffs, like I said, tomorrow or whenever you're listening to this, Monday, August 17th. And not to get too much into the interview we have later, but it's with Josiah from Dunk Bait. You mentioned, and again, I wasn't on the interview, so we'll touch on that later. But Soap was riding solo again, did a phenomenal job. You guys were talking at some point about how this season, this seeding games in the playoffs kind of have a March Madness vibe to it. And it's really true. And it's dope. Like looking at the schedule, there's NBA playoffs games from like 1:30 p.m. to like 8 or 9 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's the format throughout the first round.
It's going to be awesome.
That's going to be sick, dude. That's going to be like nothing else, we've ever seen. It's not March Madness. You know what I mean? That's obviously a somewhat different dynamic with one and done and Cinderellas and shit like that. But I think it's been like just almost taken for granted over the last couple of weeks. Like we've had NBA games on at noon Eastern. And the latest game, there's no West Coast. We don't have to worry about like that 10:30 Lakers Rockets game. It's it's cool. Like I've probably sound like a broken record. I know we've said it 100 times on the show, but the NBA has just done a really fantastic job with this whole thing. Safety concerns, the production, the scheduling. It's really gotten off without a hitch, outside of a handful of guys leaving the bubble and coming back, which at this point really hasn't really had any overlying effects. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there were any teams that really got screwed from their players getting sick or leaving the bubble or something like that. The most infamous one was probably Lou Williams, and they're fine. They're
outside
right
of one single chicken wing incident, which happens in many professions.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Forever live in infamy.
I think it's pretty cool too. I thought we had it good in a normal regular season where the first round of the playoffs on TNT they market it as 40 games and 40 nights, and it's already a ton of playoff basketball for like quite a stretch. But back then it was you always had to sacrifice too. So it would be typically 2 on either TNT or 2 on ABC. And one fucking shit ball game on NBA TV. But now you get to, I mean, granted it is during the workday, but most of us are working from home. So I don't know, you feel still connected to it. It's pretty sweet that that starts at whatever, noon or 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's 1:30. I think tomorrow is Nuggets Jazz. I'm pulling it up right now.
Celtics play at 6:30, right?
Perfect. I think they're 6:30 like all week.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got that primetime slot. There is a 9 o'clock game. So the last game of the night is Mavs Clippers at 9.
That's still fine. I mean, that's
it is, but that's still, think about it, that's weird. Like that's 9 p.m. local time. They're playing a game. That's very rare
because of the first round with there only being 6 arenas.
True. But I just mean in general, like across the board, like even like the only equivalent would be like Sunday or Monday Night Football in like New England, which is local time, like 8:30 kickoff, which seems crazy. Like the older I get and the earlier I go to bed, I don't think and I know your sleep schedule is vastly different than mine. But I really don't remember the last time I stayed up to watch a full like Monday night or Sunday night football game. They end at like midnight.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, which is so bizarre. And then like, depending on how good the game is, it's like, all right, like I guess I'll just fucking go to sleep now. It's like if it's like a crazy game or like something you want to follow on Twitter, it's at least another hour of just post game fandom, and then before you know it, it's time to just clock in and do it again. It's Monday.
It's gonna be weird when they get to the finals and they have no reason to wait that late, but they will.
Put them at
it's
5:30.
Gonna be 8:30 or 9.
You think?
For sure. Yeah, I definitely think so.
Oh, yeah. Why wouldn't it be? Because those are still the times on East Coast games anyway in the finals.
Which is weird because it's like, well, it's still really 8:30 or 9 here every game.
Yep. Right. And to your point, it's like, a lot of that is to do with like the West Coast crowds, like commute home and stuff like that. That's been eliminated for a wide number of people. So it's kind of just like, all right.
I didn't understand. So there was the playing game where Portland was the higher seed, so they won and they advanced. But if the Grizzlies would have had to win too.
Yeah.
So were they going to play back to back?
Yep. 4:30 today they would have played.
And then the playoffs still would have started tomorrow?
Yeah, but they don't play till Tuesday.
Gotcha. Damn, that would have been fucking hell
seriously
for the Grizzlies if they had made it.
I agree, because your game planning short term, you have to beat the Blazers, so you really can't focus on anything else besides the Blazers game plan. You win at 4:30, you play at 4:30 Sunday. Say the game ends at 8 p.m. now you have like a day to game plan for the number 1 seed in the West to start a playoff series. And like I said, like 24 hours. So that is crazy.
I don't know. I assume that your game plan for defending Yusuf Nurkic is the same as it is for LeBron James. So
or Rajon Rondo. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, guys like Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, Nurkic, Hassan Whiteside are pretty much all in the same
interchangeable
bucket.
Positionless basketball.
No pun intended. Exactly. So let's on that note, let's jump into it. So the official bracket came out. I guess we'll start with the Celtics series because that makes the most sense. And then we talk a lot of Celtics on this show. But before we get into that, I thought about this too. I mean, we talked about this briefly with pretty much all the Boston media, Celtics specific guys we've had on lately, like John Corrales, Kyle Draper, even like Greg Dickerson, Cedric Maxwell, obviously. Let me bend over and pick up all those names I just dropped. But kind of like our goals going into the bubble, what we're looking to see. And again, I've said this 100 million times when we started recording the show. Everything I really wanted to get out of the play-in games, I'm satisfied with. I wanted everyone to stay healthy. I wanted to get an idea of what Kemba looks like. Looks good. I mean, trending in the right direction. What else? I wanted to see what guys like JB and Tatum looked like. I think they've looked great. Hayward's been a nice surprise. And then the only other question mark was really at the 5, the center position between Tice and at the time Cantor. But, Robert Williams has been playing a lot of minutes too and playing pretty well. So I think the only real question mark going into the series from my end, maybe outside of Kemba, kind of off a true minutes restriction, is just that center position or that big man in general. Because, bro, the road to the finals goes through a lot of big dudes. Like Embiid to start, then say they win that, play Toronto. You got guys like Gasol and Ibaka. Then say you play Milwaukee, you got the Lopez brothers, you got Giannis. I don't know, would you agree? That's probably, in my opinion, it's probably the biggest concern. I don't know if concern is the right word, or the biggest, opportunity to get worked on a little bit in these early games.
Yeah, I think I'd say that's the biggest area of opportunity. For the other use a sales term. Is the center position. The only things I was looking for the Celtics in these games was I hoped that they, when they had the ball, that they scored it. And when they didn't have it, they prevented the other team from scoring.
You've always had these really progressive, X's and O's strategies. And
always been one step ahead.
When I started this podcast, I was kind of nervous to bring you on because some of those things you say are just so radical. I assume our audience struggles to follow with some of that stuff.
It's tough. I know you've asked for a third host to kind of serve as a buffer between me and you.
Hit a button that zaps you every time you say something so incredibly
asinine,
to use another basketball term, out of left field. So you never know. But no, I think so anyway, I mean the Celtics, they broke down. I mean, they stayed where they were, 3 seed. Mm-hmm. Fine with that. I don't think that they didn't have a chance to get the 2 seed anyway, right? Mathematically.
In the very beginning.
Very small chance. Like if they went 8-0 and Toronto went 0-8 or something like that.
Yeah, basically in the first 2 games, they still had a chance to do it. And then, yeah.
God, looking back though, that would be so huge. To play Brooklyn first round instead of Philly.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, we would have had to go.
We'll get to Brooklyn in a second. I'll let you touch on Brooklyn in a second because I know your boy is kind of leading that squad right now. But no, real quick on the Philly series. I mean, the biggest thing in general, I guess, is Simmons is out. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard multiple people talk. I mean, what's his name? Who's the backup? Shock Milton? Is that his name?
Shake Milton.
His brother, Shock Milton, still in the Euro League. I don't know. That offense, everyone said, I mean, that offense can operate at a equal, if not higher level with Simmons out. Obviously, they take a lot off their defense with Simmons out. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, this series, going into tonight's recording, I would say I was a little more on the nervous side. The more I follow, the more I see, the more I think about it. I'm really not. I think I don't see a sweep, but I wouldn't be surprised with Celtics in 5. I think like we touched on earlier, the center position, the big man position. I think Embiid he has an opportunity to do whatever he wants this series. I honestly don't know how motivated he really is to play, let alone like play hard and win. And then everyone outside of that is just a bunch of question marks. Their shooting has gone down tremendously. Who do you rely on? Tobias Harris and Al Horford? Not from a shooting perspective, but just someone else you can literally trust.
Furkan Korkmaz
giving the ball. Yeah, seriously. I saw today, I think Allen Iverson is listed as out due to retirement. I've never seen that one in quite some time.
no spoilers.
No, it literally just crossed. I just got the text from Allen Iverson.
Gotcha.
I'm doubtful. Or no, excuse me, I'm out officially. Verbatim, I'm not playing tomorrow. Please stop texting me. How'd you get this number? So that's
also, we
news.
are not talking about practice.
No, it don't even start me on practice. But no, I don't know. What do you think about this series in general? Because I know you said you were a bit nervous at some point.
I was a bit nervous just because the Sixers have played us well this year. They went 3-1 against us. Granted, all those games were with Ben Simmons. And now the more that I think about it,
and they're phenomenal at home.
Yeah.
We're phenomenal at home. Home doesn't exist anymore.
Brad Stevens said, and he's pretty big on like gassing up the other opponent, very Belichickian of him. No matter who it is, he always finds the positives in them. But he said
he loves the Cavaliers whenever we play them. Biggest threat to the Celtics every time we play them.
He was like, even with Ben Simmons out, I think they move the ball just as well, if not better.
Oh yeah.
And like with Ben Simmons, the ball sticks in one place. But yeah, like you said on the defensive end, like even if the Sixers can score better without Ben Simmons, which may be true, the biggest thing is that he was typically defending the best player on the other end. You take him out of that, I think it frees up Kemba Walker because I feel like they likely would have put him either on Kemba or Tatum. And Kemba, as much as I love him, he does struggle with bigger defenders. And I would have to look at the numbers, but I don't think he played all that well against the Sixers this year. So without Ben Simmons there, I think that's going to be huge. And if Kemba's that much more of a threat, then that's only going to help.
I agree.
Be more well-rounded. And with the way that Hayward's playing going into all this, pretty encouraged about how diversified the team is. I'd say in five or 6 Celtics.
I think there's going to be an opportunity for at least one player to just go off on every game. You know what I mean? Like they could double team Tatum, Brown, Kemba, and Hayward. One of them is going to go off because they're going to be open. Even when they start rotating, I can see guys like Marcus Smart coming in and eating off this defense a little bit, especially when Sixers are rotating. The only thing is just the center position. I don't know what they're going to do as far as rotation goes. What do you think? Who do you think's the first? Who thinks to come off the bench first between Cantor or Robert Williams? Probably depend on how the game's going too, somewhat.
Yeah, it's so hard because I know Cantor is so notoriously bad on defense, but I think
good.
I don't think Brad Stevens fully trusts
Robert Williams.
What's his name? Robert Williams fully on defense either, because he, as great of a shot blocker as he is, he's not like a great team defender yet. I don't think he has that discipline. So I think it's going to be like a case of momentum, and if they need scoring and rebounding, they'll go with Cantor. But if they need some energy and I guess athleticism to match up with the Sixers, then it's probably going to be Robert Williams.
Yeah, I think this is one of those series where I just want to get in and out as like fast as possible, which I think they can. The other thing that's interesting about just the playoffs this year in general, I was just thinking about it earlier today, is I think, we talk all the time about really no home court advantage anymore, and specifically for the Sixers. I mean, you said the record, or the crazy record at home, stink on the road. It also makes a difference now because, in a traditional series, if you're the home team, if you're the higher seed and you have the first 2 games at home and you lose one, if not both of those games, then it's like, fuck, like we're down 0-2 going into Philadelphia. Now it's okay. Yeah, we've dropped a game. We're down 0-2, but we don't have to worry about going into another arena. You know what I mean? It really is the closest thing to playing basketball, like in a vacuum as you possibly can. I know they have the virtual fans and
And
fucking.
you and I have tried that vacuum basketball.
It's not as fun as you think. It's
No.
it's messy, to be perfectly honest with you. It's
It doesn't
messy
look
and
great
extremely
televised.
clean at the same time. Very choppy. Very choppy. Wouldn't
Boy, does it suck balls.
1 star, would not recommend. Big time on that one. But no, seriously, it's like that's why it's like the seedings. I don't think the seedings matter as much, but looking through the brackets, like there's a huge drop off, I think, between like the favored teams and like the underdogs. Like if you look at the East, like Bucks and Magic, Raptors and Nets, that's as close to a first round bound, I think, bye as you can possibly ask for. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how the Nets are sending a legal roster on the court. Caris LeVert, is Jamal Crawford back?
Oh, good question. I don't think I've heard it.
It's crazy that I'm even asking that. Like it makes a difference.
They signed Beasley, and then he had COVID, so he's not on the team anymore.
COVIDed himself. COVID out. Somehow Beasley got COVID-20 before anyone else. And then he was out for a while.
Chess, not checkers.
Yeah. And then there's your boy, of course.
Yeah.
Right? If there's ever, speaking of opportunities, the stage is set.
I swear to God,
can get it done.
Yeah.
We have the headline's ready to go. We just need the story to happen. and kind of flash forward, not to get too much in an interview later with Josiah, but didn't sound like he hated that headline either.
I think he was like, I'm a believer. I could see this.
I'm not going to pay money for it. Certainly not going to read it. But I could see it. I could see someone else reading it.
Biggie Temple Smalls.
Yep. Does he start
on that team? Who the fuck knows? Maybe.
Probably. Yeah.
It's like him, Joe Harris. What's his name? Jared Allen, the shot blocker with the afro.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then Caris LeVert. I think I'm missing one more. And then after that, and those guys are like all decent role. LeVert's a legit.
LeVert
player.
can play. Yeah, I agree. They talk about him as like the third of the big three once Kyrie and KD come back. Him or Bitcoin boy.
Oh yeah, that's who's the fifth.
Dude, he's out too. No, he's out, isn't he?
Oh, he's out?
I thought he wasn't playing this summer.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
That's what I'm saying. I can name more people who are inactive than active on that team.
Yeah.
But you have to play
the games.
He's mining
Bitcoin somewhere.
Definitely. He's coining his bits. So it sounds like we're on the same page about the Celtics, which is good. That'll be dope to start tomorrow. Any other series on the board that jump out to you? I know we touched briefly on the Blazers-Lakers. What are your thoughts on that one?
It's going to be interesting. I thought that
hot.
I saw that the betting odds were something like minus 500 for the Lakers, plus 800 for the Blazers. So obviously Vegas is still it's still the Lakers, and the Blazers essentially not to steal what Josiah said, but they've had to, play balls out this last 2 weeks just to get here. So it's kind of like,
I agree.
It's kind of like being down 20, making up the lead, but you never really get over the hump and actually take over the lead. Yeah, I think that could easily happen to them.
And even, I'm not going to even say this because I'll sound like Skip Bayless, but even Dame in that playing game, I don't think he scored in the fourth quarter. He did what he had to do. He helped other guys out, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's almost like he kind of, I don't know. I can't think of another way to say it than blew his load early by kind of scoring 200 points in 4 games or whatever it was. And like, okay, shit, now we got to start the playoffs. And now
you can only do that for so long.
Seriously. But hey, we'll see.
McCollum apparently doesn't have a back.
Yeah, very interesting. Backless. Spineless.
Yeah.
But no, I will say, I mean, Nurkic has been playing well. Crazy fucking stat line. I think he went like 30 and 21 or something like that over that game on Saturday. Mm-hmm. He does make a difference. He's just like one of those noticeable big dudes on the court. Like I just remember even watching the first quarter, he was grabbing every rebound. I think he had like 7 rebounds in like 5 minutes or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is, I mean, the Lakers haven't been playing terribly well either. They just have such a weird dynamic between two superstars. And really, like the other outside of those two, their most high profile players, Kyle Kuzma, he doesn't even start. Like it's just a bunch of older shooters, and you're leaning on JaVale McGee to be your rim protector.
They have so many old players, whether active or inactive.
Like they have players who are susceptible to COVID. Like they just shouldn't be down there.
Yeah.
They're legit old people playing basketball. Dwight Howard, Rondo,
Avery
McGee,
Bradley.
Danny
I know
Green.
he's not down there. Yeah, yep. Danny Green's old.
Jesus Christ. Who else is on that team? Kuzma, we said.
Eric Caruso. He's very spry.
Alex Caruso is hit or miss, to say the least. So I don't know. I mean, but the only thing is, again, we've touched on this before on the show. It's the LeBron factor. I have no scientific evidence to say they're going to lose that series. It just doesn't make sense. They could go down 3-0 and lose by 50 points every game. And I'd still be like, you know what? The Blazers are probably going to win, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not ready to put all my eggs in that basket quite yet. So
the Lakers might be due.
It'll go 6, maybe 7. I think it'll be a competitive series. It'll be a fun series. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I can also see him come out in game 1 and win by 30. And LeBron go like 35, 10, and 10. They okay. That's right. I forgot. that makes a lot more sense.
But my apologies.
Yep.
Not sure why I doubted you.
But it puts Skip Bayless in a very awkward predicament. Love shitting on LeBron. Love shitting on Dame.
Got to choose between his two least favorite sons.
He's just hoping for like a tie every game. And then I don't know how you resolve that one, but he might just take the week off, actually. I don't know what he's going to say.
I think what he'll do to like divert the attention is he'll just start cheering on one player
he'll pick some random ass dude.
Yeah. I think he might just go like he's just going to be like sucking. I'll just say he's going to like CJ McCollum a lot.
Yeah. CJ McCollum is going to, in his eyes, he's going to turn into Scottie Pippen or something like that, like overnight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that series is fun. Besides that, it's like, even like, I know we did a poll on the Instagram account today, and then some of the stuff on ESPN. Most of the writers, most of the experts are just picking chalk pretty much through the first round. I mean, the only, like we talked about the East, Bucks isn't a competition. Raptors, Nets isn't anything. Celtics, 5 or 6, maybe. Hopefully. Pacers, Heat is interesting, but I really like the Heat. And I've talked about them on the show before, too. The games I've watched them play down in the bubble, one against the Celtics, where they kick their ass. I think they're a good team. Like, they have really good ball movement. They're surrounded by shooters.
That's the toughest part. Yeah.
Jimmy Butler seems to have gotten his head out of his ass a little bit, is actually kind of taking on that leadership role. I love Bam. I think he's a really good up-and-coming big man. And then, like I said, they just have a bunch of white guys who can shoot, and they're all dirty. Mm-hmm. And they all look like they literally just got off like their dad's yacht party. But they shot the lights out against Boston. And
one of them's from your neck of the woods, Duncan Robinson,
right? Yeah, he's from New Hampshire. Shout out. Shout out. Yeah, I think it was my barber or someone I was talking to recently. I think he played against him. And said
I thought he was from Maine.
No, I think he's from Nottingham.
Oh, shit.
Norwood. It's New Hampshire.
Hey, makes sense. We got shooters.
That's where all the top talent comes. Shooters shoot.
We got shooters.
And then on the West, it's a little better. I mean, we talked Lakers, Blazers. Clippers, Mavs, I'm actually excited to watch. Shout out Causeway Street Podcasts. Oh, we'll get to them later, but shout out Causeway Street Podcast. I listened to their recent episode. Sean was talking a lot about the Mavs, who I like. He was getting shit on by the other guys, but I don't think the Mavs are going to win that series, but that's been a pretty fun team to watch. Luka's special. Kristaps Porzingis is actually playing well, but he's just so frail. And then it's like Seth Curry. But if they can get like a miraculous run out of those two and get a little help, could be a series. That being said, Clippers in 5 with that one.
Yeah, sweep or gentleman's
dude. They just have too many. They have 2 excellent players, and then everyone else on their team is good. Mm-hmm. Like no, the players.
That's a good formula.
The Clippers don't have a shitty player. If you took that roster and somehow you got on the phone with Doc Rivers and incorporated your offensive and defensive strategy about scoring every time you get the ball.
That's
success.
We're gonna have to cut this off right here. I don't need him hearing this.
Trust me, I don't think he is, but you never know. So yeah, they'll take that one down. What else? Nuggets, Jazz. To me, that's probably the most boring series. I'm really not interested in that one at all.
I never have interest in watching either of those two teams.
Not really. I mean, Nuggets.
And they're always in the playoffs.
Always. Jazz are just
playoffs.
Don't have any interesting players. Yeah. Nuggets don't have much interesting players either. Their most interesting player is interesting, but very strange. He looks like Jokic. He looks like that guy from Despicable Me, Steve Carell's character. But he lost like 300 pounds over the break. Then they have Bol Bol. Bol Bol's been an interesting storyline. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that he's a human who lives on the same planet as us playing professional basketball. And then
I don't get how he runs the break by himself the way that he does. That
only takes him 3 steps to get from one to the other. And then Michael Porter Jr. has actually been playing well. Off the court,
Don't ask for his opinions about anything else.
Don't ask about his opinions on things that people have strong opinions on. That's Michael Porter in a nutshell. And then Jamal Murray, Instagram boy himself, and then a couple other dudes down there. But I think the Nuggets win that series. I don't really care. And then Rockets Thunder, which is an interesting series. Mm-hmm. We talked about the Rockets on the show. We talk about James Harden on the show a lot. I think kind of disrespect James Harden a little bit, but he's just such an easy target. Mm-hmm. And I know you and Josiah kind of touched on him a little bit in the interview as well, but Russ is out for a little bit. So I think that makes things interesting. And I've heard a lot of people say like Thunder are a sleeper. They're playing well. They're watch out for them. I just don't think the Thunder team is good. Like their roster isn't good at all. I honestly don't know how they got to the five seed. They're leaning on Chris Paul.
I think it was just like good coaching. The team played well together and they played hard. They were basically like the Brad Stevens, Isaiah Thomas era, or Brad Stevens, like early Isaiah Thomas when it was just him averaging like 20 and everyone else doing their role. And like probably the fifth seed in the West is maxing out for this roster.
Yeah, but like the Thunder are better than the Mavericks and the Blazers, Jazz, and the Suns. Suns should be in the playoffs. I think Suns would beat the Thunder in a 7-game series. I think they would beat the 4 through 8 seed in the series, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. That must be frustrating. Like you went down there. So and again, going back to the Rockets series, I think the Rockets win that series. But I'm interested to see what James Harden does without Russell Westbrook. Like Austin Rivers is playing fucking guard. I know he had a good game the other day, but that team is just so – I was looking at the roster earlier. You don't realize how small they are until you look at their roster on paper. I think Covington plays the 4. PJ Tucker is their starting center. Mm-hmm. Like, what are we doing? Like, he's going to be against Steven Adams and Nerlens Noel. And then next round, they'd go up against 4-5. So they'd go up against the Lakers. PJ Tucker and Anthony Davis, that's a sweep. Like, that's 4 or 5 games. Like, what are we doing?
Anthony Davis would literally eat him on the court. And I'm not even sure that's against the rules.
It is. Oh, 100% is.
You've seen a specific rule?
That's a quick T. Big time. Big time.
We're going to have to go to replay for – this is a flagrant. We don't know if it's 1 or 2.
We don't know if it's flagrant foul or first-degree murder. So we'll be back. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested because it's like, a lot of hype around James Harden and the Rockets is they're not built for the playoffs, their style of basketball. And then there's this whole other camp saying, this bubble is built for James Harden. He can – no pressure, no fans. This is his type of basketball. Let's see what he does. And he's played well. Let's see what he does in the 7-game series. I think they can beat the Thunder. Rockets-Lakers will be a great series, I think, especially if Russ comes back too. That would be a 6 series. But I'm curious to see what Harden does. I don't want to get into this too much, so I want to get moving on the interview. But the other thing in the news is the new people coming into the bubble. Like having family and stuff like that coming into the bubble. There's some rules around it. But a part of me thinks like we're talking about at the beginning of the show, we're giving all this praise to the NBA. They're off without a hitch. virtually no positive tests and the longest time. Everything's working well. I'd be thinking, like, do I even want to open this up? Like, is this even worth the risk? Well, I understand they're going to go through the same quarantine, the same process, but it's like, I don't know. I know there's some guys who have their actual like wives and kids and shit coming down, but I don't know. If I'm like an NBA coach or GM or someone in upper office, it's like, and especially when you see all the shit that's going on with the Major League Baseball and the NFL and college football, I'd almost be like, you know what? Like, can you guys hold off like another couple months? Like, I really don't think I want to fuck this thing up any more than we possibly could. Have you thought about that at all?
Well, it's like,
and I know you were invited to go down there. So I don't want to screw up like your vacation or anything.
Yeah, it's a sore subject because it looks like that might be in limbo now.
Some of these new
for anyone
rules.
who doesn't know, I'm really.
You've only known Samuel Ojale for 29 days, like right at the borderline.
Well, so it was him and Brad Wanamaker fighting over a spot to invite me, because I'm close with both of them.
Sure.
Great so guy. It's just tough, and yeah, I guess they've gotten through at this point. Let's see, the season started on July 31st, but the bubble had been in existence since what, at
least a week before that.
Yeah, I want to say like July 23rd, something like that. So it is kind of sketchy to introduce another variable to something that's been very successful so far. I think they'll manage it, well enough. I'm curious to see what effect they have on the crowd noise, because these people are going to be loud enough that you're going to hear individuals screaming. And I wonder if that's going to take away from the product on TV. I wonder if that's going to sound almost kind of corny, because you can hear just like 5 or 6 particular people.
Yep.
I don't know. So I'm interested in that.
I mean, I'm sure those guys are stoked to get people down there. I don't know. Even like from a fan's perspective, it's just like, I'd be pissed if like a bunch of like basketball wives come down and fuck this whole thing up. Just can't get it right and get everyone sick. And then or like someone big gets sick. Cause now you got like, even like Lou Williams, like we all shitted on him. Like I said earlier, nothing really happened. He missed a couple games. The Clippers are fine. They're rolling into the playoffs. That happens today. You're missing 10 games or 10 days. So it's definitely it's different. And again, I don't know exactly the logistics of how they set it up in the hotel and stuff, but we'll see. But the good news is playoffs time. Is going to be a lot of fun this first round of basketball all day. Like I said earlier, it's going to have a March Madness vibe to it. I'm excited for the Celtics and Sixers series. I might not feel as good if we record next and we're down like 2-0. But I think I want to take tomorrow. I want to take Monday's game, and I'd like to win by like 20. That would make me feel a lot better. If Sixers win by like 3 on like some bullshit and there's any sort of controversy like fouls or Tatum plays like shit or something, fine. If Embiid drops like 35 and 18 and they lose by like 10, then I'm going to be a little nervous. But I don't know. I don't know if Embiid's thought about that strategy about doing that or not.
I think he's so committed to getting the hell out of there. He's probably going to try to play in his hazmat suit.
He just runs in, gets 6 fouls on purpose, 6 intentional fouls, and then just calls out sick.
Hack a Tice.
Like the night before the game, the Sixers HR director just gets like a PTO request from Joel Embiid for 8/17/2020.
Hey,
8.5 hours.
You said if I had this request in before midnight.
You said we had a 24-hour rule, so sorry.
Yeah,
family comes first. But cool. So that's enough of us. Let's get into it. So tell us a little bit, Soap, about what we got for our interview today.
Yeah, real quick. This was huge. So I said this on the interview, and I'll say it again now because I was trying to gas him up, but I'm really, really gassing us up by proxy because so Josiah Johnson. Huge and hilarious following on Twitter. He's got a ton of fans, especially from like other guys that we follow in the NBA community. And just like kind of NBA Twitter is awesome because there's plenty of stats, but there's also plenty of comedy and just dumb memes that come from it. But he's 1/3 of Dunk Bait, which is a Yahoo Sports show, and that show has 260,000 followers. And by the grace of God, if you believe in him, which I don't, somehow we got these guys to come on the show, or we got Josiah to come on the
Josiah.
show. And we chopped it up for quite a while, talking about the playoffs, talking about the show, how he got started. I think I asked him about the recent James Harden versus Luka comments from Bill Simmons. And then let's see if I can. I gave him the headlines. I gave him my top 5 headlines from the episode with Griff.
Yeah, Griff was a little rough on you.
Yeah, he was, because I thought Josiah would. I think Josiah was a little more generous, maybe than he needed to be, and I get it. He was trying to flatter me, so thank you, Josiah.
Simmons too, not Simmons. Dickerson too, with the Redskins names. He was a little hard on you.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Jesus,
going
guys.
on. Like, I'm just a guy trying to make it. And
I just work here.
Yeah,
give me a break.
And then we wrapped up with a very relevant NBA topic, which was Lizzo. Getting back to her, if anyone, maybe I'll actually try to paste a picture into the YouTube video, but for anyone that's listening on the audio, look up Lizzo attends Lakers game in like December of 2019, and you'll see just how ridiculous her outfit was. But not only that, I assume she was hammered. She was sitting in the front row. She's a very popular like hip hop / R&B singer.
Yeah.
The outfit was scandalous. Her backside was barely covered.
Minimal.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there were pants.
Very provocative.
And she was just like kind of twerking and shaking it around in the front row with just like kids everywhere. So Dunk Bait touched on it on their very first episode, and I was like, you know what, I got to bring this up. I'm curious how Josiah would feel if the conditions of the NBA were returning was he's got to go to every game, and every game is that happening in front of him with his kids around too. So it was a very comprehensive conversation about everything, and he was the man. I would highly recommend checking out the show. I mentioned it in the interview, but it comes out once a week, and it's only about 7 to 8 minutes. So if you subscribe,
it's perfect.
The YouTube channel, it's dope. It's hilarious. It's him, LeJethro Jenkins, who's another hilarious guy on Twitter. And then I believe the third guy's name is Zach Schwartz. Either way, yeah, they've got a huge following. So clearly they're doing something right. And Josiah decided to come and talk to us. So
yeah, it's super dope. And again, I wasn't able to hop on, so Soap carries this one, but I've listened to it. And I told you this off camera, off whatever. We've had a lot of great guests on the show. I think this might be my favorite conversation we've had with a guest. I think it really just kind of captures the vibe and pretty much everything we were looking to do with this show once we got it started. It's mostly basketball, but to your point, like if you're a part of NBA Twitter, all that stuff, it's just like a lot of it is just comedy and just like not teasing these guys, but like, I don't know, they're the butt of a lot of jokes, and Josiah's the king of exposing that butt. I think if no pun intended with the Lizzo stuff.
He and Lizzo, very proficient butt exposers. But if you're a fan of any sports league, the NBA is the best one to be a fan of on Twitter, because
100%.
So they'll get the
These
jokes
guys just
off.
ask for this shit. Like they walk right into it.
Yeah, and then the intermingling of NBA with hip hop, with the rest of pop culture, with even the other leagues is hilarious. And I think that most of the writers and at least the popular media and Twitter personalities, they talk about the NBA, but they have like a diverse sense of humor, if that makes sense. Yeah. So they just fucking shit on everyone. So it's hilarious. Great. So that's why I like follow that show. That's what we're trying to do. And I think, like you said, the interview, that's what we were trying to get across. And yeah, thanks to Josiah again for hopping on.
No, it was good shit. And it got, I mean, it was a real conversation too. Like it got real a little bit. I mean, he's a good dude. He's a West Coast guy, played basketball, talks about his dad playing basketball. So anyway, stick around for that. And, anything else before we transition over to Josiah?
If anyone's seen the recent news about how concerts are being held in Europe and wants to invite me, I actually would be more than for that. I don't know if you've seen that. Hey, real quick, have you seen that?
Dope. Oh yeah.
I actually
it's almost like dinner, like having dinner at a restaurant or at a concert rather. Yeah.
Just like a bunch of 4-person tables that are 6 feet apart. Like,
Yep.
fuck it, I could still have a good time, and you can still sit if you want to without it being like you go to Fenway or something and it's
Mhm.
just shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah,
There,
that
it's like,
shit's
well,
not
if you want
happening.
it, yeah, that will never happen again. But there, it's basically just a bunch of fold-out chairs around think of it as like a card dinner table or something like that.
Mhm.
And each table has its own platform that separates you from the next group. I don't know
What else do you want?
if
Like, come
someone
on.
if Drake comes calling again like he did
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year
yeah,
and I
yeah,
had to turn him down,
yeah.
it
I'd
will be a
reconsider it.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, good shit, man. Let's do this. We got playoffs starting. Life is good, and let's get into Soapy's interview with Josiah. Here we go.
Later. All right. We are back on the Morse Code podcast. If you guys are watching on video right now, it's just me, Soapy. Dan's not here. He had to take care of, I don't know what he had to take care of, but I guess he's going to leave me to drive this show into the ground for the second time. We'll see what happens. But we got a very special guest, and I don't want to waste any time. He is, he's got a very strong name. So I want to start with that. He's at King Josiah 54 on Twitter. But the name Josiah already is strong. Then he just fucking killed it with the handle. So I assume when I tweeted you and you saw Cambodian Prince coming through on the other side, instant chemistry, like your fingers were tingling when you responded.
I think with anybody that tweets at me, when the header name is always like solid or attention grabbing, like I love, like, it's just like, all right, let me see. Like, I knew you weren't a Nigerian Prince. I know you weren't trying to get in my pockets or anything like that. So I saw it pop up.
Well, we'll see. I mean, depends on how this show goes. I might need to do that. But yeah, anyways, Josiah is joining us from a very, very startup mom and pop show called Dunk Bait. They've only got about 260,000 followers on Twitter, from Yahoo Sports. So very, knowledgeable voice in the NBA and super entertaining show. I think it's Mondays, right? Every Monday you guys drop an episode?
Every Monday.
Yeah, it's dope. I like how you guys do it with it just being, it's no more than what, 10, 15 minutes?
We shoot for like the 7 to 8 minute range. Obviously, we try to optimize it for social, so it's got to be a little shorter.
Yeah.
It's crazy though, because we have these long, great conversations, and then we got to chop them down. So
I know. I'm like, I bet those guys have to like leave a bit on the cutting room floor, but awesome. So yeah, I guess, without further ado, for any of our listeners who just woke up from a coma, which I think we do have a large coma demographic that listens to this show. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved and how you guys grew the show so quick.
Oh, well, I mean, I've been in the entertainment and sports entertainment side for the last 15 years. So mainly on the producing behind the scenes stuff, but I kind of slowly started to come to the other side and do some more hosting and kind of spread my wings. So I produced a show with Yahoo and Complex called Mostly Football with Martellus Bennett back in 2018, for the 2018 season. So that show went great. We did a bunch of sketches, and I always kept a great relationship with all the Yahoo people because we were working basically out of Yahoo Sports studio. We were Complex employees. We were working out of Yahoo studio, so we're working with the bulk of the Yahoo team. So just befriended a lot of them, hanging out all the time. Just shooting the shit, and everybody loving social, loving being making jokes and putting out hot shit. So so LeJethro and Zach, my boys. So they were, LeJethro hit me like, yo, we're trying to, do a NBA Twitter themed show. I'm like, fucking brilliant. You know what I'm saying? He's like, we want to call it Dunk Bait. I'm just like, dog, like, and I know a lot of people don't know what that means, but like for hoopers in my generation, I'm a little bit on the older side, but Dunk Bait is basically anybody who's susceptible to getting dunked on. It's pretty, when you hear it, but it's just a term that in the basketball world doesn't really get talked about a lot. So he's like, oh yeah, we want to call it Dunk Bait. I'm just like, dog, I'm in, I'm down. And their team over there, I work with them to produce and kind of do the show. So we shoot it on Sundays normally, but it's been tough with the Rona. We've been working remotely and like obviously doing everything from home. But when we're in the studio, I find like, we're three dudes that just like hoops, like to talk shit, like to have a good time. So those two dudes are great dudes to work with. I think we launched the show in like December, and it's been crazy because, we've been kind of just slowly growing. And I think now we're close to like 40 episodes. We built up some level of fans and people actually like, fuck with the show. And it's like, it's cool for me to see that a lot of people that I'm close with in the NBA Twitter circle are like, they watch the show and are down with it. we have them on. You know, we get cool guests on. So for us, it's just a great experience, man. Great opportunity.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I meant to ask you because I saw the first episode. I do have a question about the first episode later because you guys touched on Lizzo, which I thought was a hilarious topic. But yeah, I was just like, this is perfect. I was able to quickly go through pretty much all of them over the past week or so, and it's super entertaining. So yeah, highly recommend to anyone listening to this show if you like hoops. And yeah, I guess if for some strange reason you don't understand the title, just think of like Brandon Knight or Sean Bradley, and that's pretty much what Dunk Bait means.
Dunk Bait.
All right, so getting right into it. Good time to be covering basketball. Finally, we are up and running. We I think we've had 2 weeks of basketball at this point, you know, with the 8 seeding games. You're a Lakers fan, correct?
Yeah.
So let's assume that I hope that the Blazers win their play-in game. If they do, how many games can the Lakers realistically take off the Blazers?
I mean, you know, look, I think everybody's making a big deal. And look, much respect to Dame. And I don't want to say anything to poke the bear or poke Blazers fan, but, you know, I think Dame is kind of, you know, he's wearing himself out, man. And it's hard. I mean, look, he's got the killer instinct and all those great, you know, those great things we like to assign up to players of his stature. But to play at that level competitively, they basically already played a playoff round these past 4 or 5 games, you know what I'm saying? Because they're coming at it and approaching it differently. And the teams on the other end are feeding off that energy as well, obviously, because you're in a bubble. You don't have anything else to really feed off of. There's no crowd or anything like that. So it's like, look, there's still people watching this game. I can't get my ass busted. I got to try and lock up. So, but to see what Dame's done, man, it's honestly remarkable. I was a big fan of kind of the Suns and what they were doing, and I just thought, you know, I felt like it's un-American for the Suns to go 8-0 and kind of just, you know, win out in this bubble and now get sent home. But, you know, life is fucked up. So, you know, but I think, you know, look, the Blazers got a good squad. I'm curious, they got to get past the Grizzlies first. So that's not just like, you know, let's not just act like that's just going to be a shoo-in. But I think people are kind of overhyping it. I would give them, look, if it goes 6 games, I think that's probably a good spot. Just even, you know, the Lakers haven't really looked up to par and not having Rondo and Avery Bradley, as much as people try to act like that's not a big deal. Those are 2 guys on the defensive side going up against Dame. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult because I can see this thing even going to 7 maybe. And that's just what it is, the way the bubble is, no home court advantage. Every game is basically a neutral site. So really, you know, it's really now on these guys to kind of find it in themselves to see who's going to be the best team to come out of there.
I would say I think you made a really great point about the Suns going 8-0 and still being out of luck. I feel like this is the first time that the NBA has had like a March Madness type feel because no real home courts. And so I feel like in some of these instances where maybe these guys are used to playing in front of home crowds that were, even though there was a crowd, it wasn't the best. And it's like as soon as you come out of the tunnel, you see that the arena is going to be half full. Right. So maybe I don't know. Part of me thinks that they're a little more motivated because they're like, all right, you know, every game here is on a national stage for the most part. Yeah. And it's just we hoop. It doesn't matter what's going on in the background. All the attention's on us. So it's really unfortunate that we're going to get deprived of the Suns and possibly the Blazers, which would be like in a March Madness sense, that would be your Cinderella story.
Yes, exactly. I mean, look, I think psychologically it's interesting that you mentioned that. It's this thing, everybody's like, oh, this is like Summer League. Like, no, because even Summer League now has become, you know, Summer League going 18, 20,000 sometimes. I remember Lonzo was selling out Thomas and Mack, you know, so Summer League now even has kind of that game feel. This is more like summer pickup ball. Like I went to UCLA and in the summertime at UCLA, pickup games are intense, right? But it has more of that type of feel because while we're at home and it looks like, oh, we got the virtual fans and all that shit, as a hooper, that doesn't really mean anything to you. It's not like, you know, you feed off the energy of human beings when that crowd erupts, whatever's going on, the cheer and the music, you know, all those different things. So they've made the viewing experience great for us at home, but players out there, like, oh, that's just going out the window. That's why you can see a team like the Suns, and even though the Suns went 8-0, I understand that there was a season before this that led to this moment. So that those 8 wins, honestly, you know, if they would have played better initially, it's a different story. They're in the playoffs. So these games, it's really hard to kind of take anything from them. Now the playoffs are starting. We'll really see what dudes are about. But, man, it's an interesting time, man, for the NBA. I'm just glad, honestly, kudos to the NBA for even getting this shit off the ground because we're seeing all these other leagues and how they're fucking up. There's probably not going to be college football
Big
till
fuck
spring.
up.
Like major fuck ups, because when everybody heard the NBA was doing this shit, everybody heard it, right? And everybody's like, even me, I'm like, this shit don't sound like sending the NBA to Florida. Like, why would you go to Florida anyway in the middle of this pandemic? That's just like Rona Central. So to see them do this and zero tests come through, and it's funny, they mentioned all the players. I wonder if anybody else is getting testing positive that they're not talking about. Because every week it's like, of the 340 whatever players that are in the bubble, zero tested positive. But it's like, they're not the only motherfuckers in there. There's other people. So I'm curious what the real numbers are. But so far to see how they've gone, Rona free has been awesome.
Yeah, so far so good. And I definitely agree that the presentation from a viewership standpoint has been great. The only issue that I have, and I don't know if you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you watch games on the local Lakers channel, or do you watch the national, like ABC, ESPN, TNT feed?
I watch local always. Like I'm straight Spectrum Sports. You know what I mean? Like just, that's me. I love the hometown crew.
Yeah.
Stu, you know what I'm saying? Like that's my crew. So I rock with
he's
the
hilarious.
hometown. Yeah.
So I don't know if you experienced this then watching on the local. I watched the local here in, I'm close to Boston. And the one thing that's kind of fucked up is, at least in the first few games, there was over squeaking of shoes.
Yeah.
Like excessive squeaking of shoes. And then it also sounded like it sounded like there was some sort of stampede going on my roof. Like it was just feet constantly jumping up and down on my roof. And I was like, what the hell? So then I turned to the national game, and they had that filtered out a little more. I was just curious if you've seen any of that, or seen any of that on Twitter anyways.
Like, what do you mean? Like
people just complaining that the sound is off for local versus national.
I mean, it's hard because I don't really watch I'll watch the TV with the volume low too. But I think to your point, like when the first couple of games, it definitely did sound like they were still trying to get the mix right and all that, which is, look, it's to be expected when you're in the bubble with all these moving parts and DJs and crowds, and still trying to give that home feel with the jumbotrons. Like, having worked in production for 15 years, like, honestly, any of that shit that they're doing is amazing. Like, I think people need to really, like, get in the crowd. Just all that stuff is so many different variables with such a limited crew. And, they're doing a lot of great shit. But audio-wise, I think they've kind of got it together. I'm starting to enjoy the local feeds more. But I'll generally watch them, too, with the volume a little lower, because I got kids and shit, and I can't keep them up. So my viewing experience is already fucked. I'm doing, like, 10 things at once while the game's going on.
Yeah. Last thing Josiah needs is a stampede on his roof. So
yeah,
I get it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is just like a general non-bubble NBA question. How do you feel, and this is kind of related to that, how do you feel about in-game music when, like, mid-game in actual live ball, they start throwing in, like, hip-hop songs?
I've played in different environments, so I'm not like when I do my writing, I have music bumping in my ears. Like, I've talked to a lot of writers who don't do that. So I look at them like, wait, you don't like, so I'm just so used to all of that. I think as a hooper, it's interesting. If it's the right song, it'll get you pumped up and motivated. It's interesting, though, that you say during the game. I think as long as it's at a reasonable level and there's no profanity, I think I'm good with it.
I think it's just because, and yeah, that's a fair answer. The only place that I really notice it is being kind of egregious is in Atlanta and in Brooklyn. Like, I feel like in Atlanta, it could be a tie game with like 2 minutes to go. Atlanta's got the ball, and all of a sudden you hear, like, It's Going Down by Young Jock. Just comes on out of nowhere. Like,
Atlanta's
this doesn't
DJ
fit the situation.
Legend. But the Atlanta DJ goes hard. He gonna do what the fuck he want to do. That's Atlanta in the nutshell. People in Atlanta do whatever the fuck they want. Like, that's honestly, I'm fascinated by it because I couldn't really operate in that type of space. But you go to Atlanta, you see all types of shit. Like,
that's
I was
true.
just talking about this earlier with Zach and Legethro. Like literally, like, the strip club is the hangout spot. Like, that's where people go to, like, you're going to get wings and hanging out at the strip club. But it's not like, ooh, you're going to a strip club. Like, no, it's like going to, whatever, IHOP or whatever in their mind. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like meeting someone for a drink at Applebee's or some shit.
It's like, yo, meet me here. And it's really like that feel. Like, okay. Like, I'm on my way.
All right. Fair. You mentioned earlier that I know you played at UCLA, so obviously you got your Cali roots. You're still there now. Your dad played and was a 5-time All-Star with the Bucks. So did you become a Lakers fan? Just like, have you always been a Lakers fan?
No, I was a Clippers fan growing up. I'm a LeBron fan first and foremost, so that's where the loyalty and allegiance lies. Just so happens he's on the Lakers. Much respect to the Lakers family for embracing us and welcoming us in. But yeah, I think, and it's weird because people be like, "Oh, you can't be a fan of a player over a league." Like, why? I was a player. Like, I'm a fan of the guys that are in the mud doing it. I don't care about the ownership. Like, obviously you have teams that you're loyal to and all that good shit. But like, my dad played for the Clippers when Donald Sterling was the owner. So you think I give a fuck about like owners or to me, the Clippers represented something completely different than what it did to the average fan. To them, it was just like a jersey or whatever. To me, it's like here's like this asshole that's like trying to ruin my dad's life. Like, you know what I mean? So it's a different thing in that respect. But Clippers fan growing up, even though they were fucking terrible, but something about I enjoyed being a Clippers fan then. And then once LeBron came over, it was like, look, King James.
Here we go.
Rocking with the king.
Yeah, purple and gold. Do you have any allegiance left over from the Bucks?
Look, the Bucks. My dad works for the Bucks now. He's a color commentator for them. Two or three time Emmy Award winning color commentator. I don't know who want me to throw that in there.
No big deal.
So for me, like they retired his jersey last year. Every time we're in Milwaukee, it's just nothing but love. Great city. Like, yes, I'm a Buck fan. I wasn't alive really when he was playing with the Bucks. I was like 1 or 2 years old. So we never really went to Milwaukee. But now that he's been back, been to the city a few times, everybody out there is cool as shit. They always open their arms to the Johnson family. So I'm fucking with the Bucks. I was looking forward to, and this is partly like the Rona, like fucked everything up for me. Like, because it was either going to be a Bucks Lakers finals or a Bucks Clippers finals. And either way, like I'm getting action. Like, I'm getting more action in Milwaukee than LA. Like that LA finals ticket is going to be hard as fuck to get. That Milwaukee ticket is going to be a little bit easier to get for those finals games. So, I mean, I just think it would have been a great thing. And I feel like we were all just deprived and kind of, cheated. I mean, imagine like, I don't know if you've ever been to LA, but LA, like when the Lakers and Clippers, like this never happened where both teams have been like, this great, I mean, both teams like championship contender level. The city was already fucking just, down because of Kobe and everything else that's been going on. Like it would have been awesome, but it is what it is.
I know. And at this point we're already considering, or at least I've seen that the leagues are considering what they're going to try to do next year. And I know the NBA wants to attempt another bubble with multiple cities. You seen any of that?
I mean, I think I've heard kind of different stuff tossed around. And look, honestly, I think, the NBA kind of can do whatever the fuck they want. As long as, obviously, we get through the rest of this season and they handle it correctly, I wouldn't jump the gun just yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's not – like, there's still months and we were talking about till October at least. So, curious to see what happens. It seems like, the way that our leadership in the government has kind of shown us that we're going to be in this thing for a lot longer than we should have been. So we'll see how they adjust to it.
Should be interesting. But yeah, landscape's going to be changed for a while. That's for sure. Going back to, the lack of fans there, it looks like, so what is it? After the first round of the playoffs, the guys are going to be allowed to have some family members attend?
I think the league came out with all these like rules and regulations and criteria. And I think they get like one person during the game, they get like, and then like the rest of the, I think this is going to be where we really see what's going on because you're coupling the playoffs. These dudes are already, and a lot of these guys aren't in really like big hotel rooms. I don't care. They're nice hotel rooms for a 3-day weekend at Disney World, right? They're not like I'm living here for 3 months, like type of rooms. But and you know what I'm saying, I know like Rondo or somebody like compared it to a Motel 6 and got shitted on. But it's like these guys are multimillionaires. Like even LeBron staying in the presidential suite, that's like a downgrade for him. Like for any other human, like oh wow, to LeBron's like shit, this is small as fuck. Like what? like this is you know what I mean. But so once those families come
only
in, only
2 jacuzzis in here.
Like believe me, like where's the hoop at? Like so to only have with the family situation, the room. I think I wonder if guys were already going a little stir crazy because they've been in there a month. You know what I mean? And that's a long ass time for anybody, especially with the way what's going on in the world, to ask anybody to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see. But I feel like there's gonna be like some family conflicts. We already seen like. Dame's people and PG's people weren't really rocking with each other, and I'm saying there's just a lot of different crews who aren't really rocking with each other. And the players are cool, but it's really like the boo or whoever that's going to really go hard and don't have nothing to lose. So,
I saw one of the rules. I think it basically boiled down to you could have family members, and then specifically, it's got to be someone. In addition to that, it's got to be someone you've known for more than 30 days. So like essentially no Instagram thoughts, no thoughty Pippins.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, who do you think's gonna fuck up first? I have a guess. I
We
think
already
you're
saw-
thinking the same thing.
We already saw a dude from the Seahawks get caught up. I don't even like the rookie kid who got caught up, like trying to sneak in the booth. You already know. I think Rashawn Holmes from the Kings got that early quarantine because he crossed like the imaginary bubble line to go get like Postmates or some chicken wings from Uber or whatever it was.
Yeah, and he didn't even go to Magic City.
He literally got the pull up and thought he could cross the line. So I think I'm glad they worked those kicks out. I don't know, man. It's gonna be wild because a lot of these guys are staying in the same hotels too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to be real, those rooms aren't like if you brought like a boo and kid or whatever, like they're not sitting in that hotel room. Like they're probably spending as little time as possible. So there's gonna be a lot of mingling in the lobbies. I'd say there'll be less fights and more like people that you would expect to fight are now like buddies walking out like you know what I'm saying, like Pat Bev and Dane's family are gonna hang out and start going on like fishing vacations and shit like that, like randomly down the road because they like bonded.
Yeah, they're forced to just hang out.
Yeah. And then it's just like after a while, it's like, all right, well, shit, like, what are we mad about?
Dame, PG, you guys want to go catch a fucking movie or something later? Hang out at the Disney DJ concert.
Like we're playing video games, and I know these guys. I don't really play video games much, but I know everybody can do like the wireless, where they can be anywhere in the world playing against whoever. But there's something about hoopers, like that whole AAU feel of who's got the Xbox or the PlayStation, set it up, and two dudes in a room going at each other. There's 4 or 5 dudes behind talking shit and whatever. I mean, you can't replicate that feeling, but so I know that that's going on there because literally dudes don't got nothing to do.
Yeah, I assume like. My co-host Dan and I were talking about this. If it wasn't for the coronavirus, which is a small minor detail, if you took everything out and you just had these guys in a bubble for say like a couple weeks, it'd actually be kind of cool because it's kind of like an adult vacation, like hang out with all your boys, all your all the guys that are your peers at this point, and then especially if you can go out, but then when you come back, it's like a college dorm situation, like you said, just playing video games with each other. But then, there's the coronavirus, so that's not the case at all.
I mean, look at the world we're in right now. Honestly, it's fucked up to me to think that we're still not over the hump. And I love basketball. I love the distraction it's been able to provide. I feel like the world needed it. It's just a little too turned up. But it's also like, there's so much shit going on that needs to be addressed. And I feel like it's not like, all that stuff is still impactful, but it's it's like trying to balance both worlds and deal with everything that's going on in society where it's like I'm watching these games now and I'm a big time LeBron Lakers fan. I just don't really give a shit if they win or lose or whatever. Honestly, for me, it's just like as long as everybody stays healthy, which we've already seen a few guys kind of go down to injury, that's all I really care about. I approach it from more a hooper space. Like I respect these guys and know how much work they have to put into being the best that they can be. So to see them, just make sure that they're healthy, everybody stays safe. And whatever happens beyond that, like, us fans are all going to talk our shit, whoever wins or loses. But if the Lakers win, like, I'm going to talk some shit, but I'm just going to be more happy that everybody was okay.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, same thing. I just kind of hope that this thing goes off without a hitch. It'd be nice if, me being a Celtics fan, it'd be nice if they won. But at this point, I'm just like, yeah, it's a distraction. It's nice to be able to watch. But at the same time, it's not like I forgot that the rest of the world, like life outside of those 2 hours still sucks right now for most people.
It does. Sucks fucking major balls. Like that shit is fucking, like kudos to everybody out there grinding, everybody that's got to still work and do all this shit through this. They can't, work from home and do all the other things that are in place. Cause now it's like, school's about to be in session and all that other shit. It's like shit, bro. Like I got 2 kids. Like, it's getting real now. Like what, they're supposed to be at like daycare right now. Like what's really good? Like, you know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, I don't envy you, especially like, living in a metropolitan area. I'm sure that's even a bigger concern than it is for like the average person like me.
Yeah.
But hopefully we figure this shit out. But no, okay. I guess going back to kind of like the gameplay, there's been a lot of, the Cinderella stories have been awesome between Booker and Damian Lillard. I shouldn't even call Damian that because he's been a known entity and fucking known killer for years now. Yeah. But the usual suspects are up to their old tricks, meaning Giannis, James Harden, and Luka Doncic. I came across this, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. So, Bill Simmons, in his latest podcast, he said he's comparing Luka and Harden. He said Luka's assists are like birds, like Larry Bird's. They're not cheap assists. ... Not like the James Harden type of assist. Your thoughts?
It's fun. I mean, I saw this thing tracking on Twitter, and I don't, just to be transparent, I don't fucking listen to Simmons' podcast. You know, more power to him to do it, but I don't really give a fuck what he has to say about basketball. You know, so like I don't take any stock in anything that dude says. Just I know he's out of pocket a lot. He said some shit about LeBron way back in the day, like like the fatherless comments and shit. So I think tonally, it's like, you know, it's a level of disrespect. And look, I'm an LA guy. Harden's an LA guy. I love the way that Harden plays. Like, people give Harden shit because, look, there's rules established, right? So if you understand those rules, the goal is to maximize the understanding of those rules to win the game. So he knows how to draw fouls. He knows how to do all, but he'll also bust your ass. Like, you know, dude's averaging like 37, you know, I think pre-bubble. Like, I don't give a fuck about pace or whatever these fucking shit the analytics people want to tell me. Like, unless you've dropped 37 in a game, like, don't, you know, it's not an extra, but there's like, you still have to physically do that against people that are getting paid millions of dollars to stop you. So the percentages and all that shit is awesome. At the end of the day, like 37 is 37.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they'll try and quantify and tell you like, oh, well, he does this and he draws cheap fouls. It's like, well, blame the refs. Like, blame the NBA for not teaching their officials. If that's your real quip, it's not on Harden. Like, Harden's not supposed to, like, well, I'm supposed to take advantage of my skill set to get buckets. So I hate, you know, and I just feel like the way, you know, what is a cheap assist versus a good assist? Like, somehow they don't count. So I know it was a shot, and I know everybody, Bill Simmons fans were like, oh, he was being complimentary of him after that, but it's like unnecessary. Like, Harden was minding his business, not doing shit. Why bring him into the mix?
He wouldn't have need to clarify it afterwards if he didn't sound like a jackass to begin with. Like, to me, I equate it to like, I'm not gonna say what the over or undertones are. I think people can kind of get the gist of that. But it's like what if Lou Will hits a game winner, Bill Simmons is gonna be like, yeah, I mean, he should have done that. But then if JJ Barea does the same thing, it's like, well, he's got ice water in his veins.
It's like, I don't want to compare Bill, but it's almost like the Laura Ingraham, whatever, like the Gorilla Jaw chick, like fucking for what, Fox News or whatever. But it's like the shut up and dribble, right? LeBron and KD talk about some shut up and dribble. Drew Brees says some out of pocket shit, and it's well, everybody deserves to have an opinion, right? And it's like, this is
First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Yeah. This is the coded language that I think we deal with, and this is what's been trying to be addressed for this long time. And you're talking about Bill, who's saying all this shit, right? While literally, like, the ringers, like, white employees are literally, like, throwing an upheaval because there's no black people there. And now that, you know what I mean? But if your white employees are literally like, yo, hire some fucking black people, dog, like, I don't know. Like, that's to me the level, like, oh, shit, like, maybe I should, you know what I mean? But to his credit, he brought in some super talented people, some guys I know, Logan Murdoch, who's elite, fucking young superstar, like, really going to be dominating. And my buddy TD, who I worked in the NFL with back in the day, is over there and running podcasts and shit. So to Bill's credit, he's brought in, like, look, you know, they may have been whatever. They're what I call white guilt hires or whatever, but you're bringing in the fucking elite of it. So now just give them the platform and the resources to be successful. So I'm curious to see how he handles them, because literally Logan's a superstar. He'd be fucking successful anywhere he goes. Same with TD. So if they thrive there and they're giving them the tools to do that, then I'll be like, all right, now I'm fucking with you, Bill. And I forgive you for this shit. If they're kind of left hung on dry, then no, like, whatever. Like, it's a fade. we can run it.
Yeah, if we get to the same point 3 years from now where that article is rewritten again, and it's like, all right, update on the last article where there were 0 black employees. Checking in with Bill. Bill's like, I got a couple meetings, but I'm gonna get around to that. I'm gonna get around to that.
And this is the thing, man. I don't got no beef with Bill, and I respect everything he's been able to do with the Ringer. And I got a ton of friends over at the Ringer. They do great shit, like, creative as fuck. Like, honestly, like, they're like, the shit they did with the Disney musical, with the different songs, was literally one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen in terms of social and pop culture and NBA Twitter. Fucking, like, if we had NBA Twitter Oscars or Emmys, like, fucking, you know, line them up, because they're winning for that shit.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's tough for them to be on the inside, because I know they're stuck kind of in this dual world where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to see changes enacted and diversity and all this good shit, but this is our boss. So hopefully kind of, like I got nothing but love for everybody over there. And it's like, look, if Simmons wants to keep saying out of pocket shit, then you're going to get an out of pocket response from the people that you're insulting.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Flipping it to a completely different topic. Just with you being a Lakers / LeBron guy, who's got the 3 best uniforms in the league, not including throwbacks?
Ooh.
Yeah, good question. I know.
I like the Suns, but I like just for me, honestly, I got a ton of friends in Phoenix, and Phoenix, I know, like, politically, I can't rock with it, but just as a city, like, great people, you know what I mean? Fucking really, like, I love value for your bucks. So, like, the real estate out there is super cheap. So I've always had like a respect for Phoenix, but it's hot as fuck. But like Phoenix, that's tough, honestly, because at any moment, what they come out with, like, I like the Nets, what they got cracking. I'm trying Clippers. I know a lot of people weren't fans of it, but I like the change they made kind of to becoming more modern. And I love the San Andreas when they got that version. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, but I say like that probably that it's hard, man. It's fucking everybody got. I mean, honestly, there's not really a jersey in the league that I wouldn't like. Orlando Magic, obviously, I feel like is the gold standard, but that's almost like that's from like the early '90s pinstripe game.
Yeah,
where they started that shit, and even the Hornets too back in the day. I think they were kind of like the Hornets back. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, and even
those
now,
are the two like starter jackets that everyone had.
Yeah, people were dying. Like literally, those were things you couldn't have as a kid growing up because there was a good chance you might get murdered for it, and that's like this is the reality of like, oh, I want your Hornets jacket. Like you didn't really see. It was like elusive, like the Hornets jacket. Like not a lot. It took nuts to wear the Hornets jacket. Like,
yeah.
It was like, please rob me. Like that's all you were saying. Like, please.
I luckily, I grew up in a pretty largely white upbringing, and honestly, not a ton of my friends were like basketball fans. So I had a morning turquoise jersey, 33, and I was like, yeah, I can wear this whenever I want. It won't be an issue.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I had one of the Orlando starter jackets. So. Yeah, throwbacks. But I was going to say, I think the Lakers have one of the best jerseys in the game right now in terms of how they went back to their original yellows.
Yeah.
Those are fire.
Always. I mean, look, the Lakers, even being a Clippers fan growing up, like just everything about the Lakers just it exuded. Like, they're like the Yankees and kind of some of the other spots. Everything just exudes fucking excellence and the way they look and just the fit. It's like you don't even really want to wear a Lakers jersey because it just looks so good. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
I don't even want to wear a Lakers jersey because I don't want to get it dirty at all. I wouldn't even want to. I'll just keep that shit in the closet. Just like it's beautiful. I don't want to rock it. But yeah, I think their fit game is always, and even like the practice stuff they got now, man, is like the shit is just as a hooper is like, damn, I wish I had shit like this growing up. Like that shit is boss.
I think the throwbacks that they brought this year between the Grizzlies, the Jazz, I'm trying to think who else. Those are the first two that come to mind because they also recently played in a throwback game. Both teams wearing those.
Yeah.
Those are crack.
Yeah. The Krenak.
Krenak.
Honestly, man, like even like like everybody's fucking the Jazz. That's why I can't really like scan the league. There's not a jersey that comes to mind that's like even Celtics. Like I would never rock a Celtics jersey, but I see you got the Larry Bird in the background. It's like it's a hot jersey. Like I understand why people would want to rock it. Like shit, this shit is baller.
I love the I can picture Jordan in the warm-ups, like his whole times with the Bulls. I wish that they would kind of bring those back, where it's basically just a jacket and the rip-off pants. Yeah. I thought those are dope.
And looking back on it, I don't understand why we use those in basketball. Like, I get like you want to stay warm or whatever, but it's not like you're playing in anything that resembles that. It's just interesting. It's not like football guys come over with like they come out in the uniform they're going to play in and whatever. Like, but for some reason, I get like some gyms are cold or whatever it may be, but it's just weird. Imagine like football dudes came out in warm-ups and every time they came in, they had to fucking, it's a funny thing to me.
All right. I promised you that I would ask you some dumb questions. So here they come. We have a segment on this show where I like to write headlines as if I work for the New York Post.
Okay.
I'm sure you've seen anytime that they have something on the front page, it's usually like maybe not questionable, but just like ridiculous puns.
Yeah.
So I wrote, these are the 5 best. I wrote 22 of them for each of the bubble teams, but I narrowed it down to the 5 best, and I want you to rate them.
Okay.
And this is for
1 through 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is in the event that any of these teams win the title. So let's say the Pacers win the title. Who's your daddy?
Solid.
Solid? Okay.
Solid.
1 through 10, what do you give that one?
I'll give it like an 8.5.
Okay.
Only just say because Indiana is the Hoosier state, so I feel like if you're battling social media people with that, you know what I mean, there may be 1 or 2 other people that would come up with that same shit. But I like it. I'm just saying it's a solid one. If you're first to market with it, you're good to go.
Perfect. I'm sending the trademark out right now. Portland, if they somehow win the playing game and then take down your Lakers on the way to a title. So Portland, I said more like the Portland appraisers because they simply couldn't afford to lose.
So I'm going to give that one a 0 just from the standpoint that in order for that one to happen, they'd have to beat the Lakers. So that's just not something we could possibly acknowledge. So,
all right.
No, I like it though.
Oh man, if you like that one, I think you're gonna like this next one. Brooklyn, storied hip hop history, very storied hip hop history. Brooklyn, if they win, Notorious B.I. Garrett Temple hits game winner to raise championship banner.
I'm gonna give that one like an 8. I like it though.
You liked it?
I like comedy, bro. So you know what I mean? I would have to see it written out, but I like any attempt at trying to fucking be different than whatever the mold is.
Okay. All right. I see. This is why.
But it would take Garrett Temple to actually do that, so that might be tough for you.
I'm waiting for him to do it because I'm gonna just tweet him nonstop and be like, "Yo, this is your nickname now. Come on the show." So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Milwaukee, your second team, title favorites. Greek Freak takes them to the promised lamb.
What's the lamb part?
You know how those gyro sandwiches, the lamb sandwiches?
Okay. So I'm gonna say 7, but I get it now when you explain it. But yeah. But I rock with it.
All right.
The promised lamb. The heroes.
Yeah. Gyro step would have been another good one, but I feel like the internet's probably got that one already.
I know it's pronounced however it's pronounced, but I always call them gyros just because I don't give a fuck. And
me too.
But give me a gyro, bro. Like that's how it's spelled. Like we're in America. Fuck.
It doesn't matter. It's gonna taste the same regardless of how I pronounce it.
Like we can't pronounce. We have to do enough trying to like change up words and shit. And this word means this, and it's spelled the same way and it has a different meaning. It's like fuck. Confusing as shit, but it's all good.
This is the last one of that category. Philly, you've heard of trust the process. How about trust the bench press as Joel Embiid raises Larry O'Brien high above his head?
It's. I think it's too many words, but I enjoy it. It's not gonna fit on the headline. That's like. But you could put it on 3 papers and then just charge triple for it. So.
I think one's the headline and the rest is like the sub header.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and then I told you I had a question about the Lizzo incident that you guys touched on in the very first episode of Dunk Bait.
Yeah.
So this is back in December, which feels like fucking 6 years ago, and we'll get you out of here on this one. Lizzo showed up to the Lakers game very scantily clad, we'll say.
Yeah.
And it was like a Sunday game. She was twerking. She was making no bones about showing exactly what she was working with. So basically the shirt or whatever that was supposed to be covering her backside was essentially covering nothing. It was a thong. My question to you at King Josiah 54, if you could have the NBA completely back to normal, but it meant that she'd be doing that 1 row in front of you and your kids every time you go to a game, are you ever setting foot in the Staples Center again?
Look, this is the thing I would say. I think Lizzo kind of made it, I think, reactionary. And I don't know. I know some people were kind of talking about weight or whatever. Like, I didn't care about any of that shit. I don't care. It's just butt cheeks on the seat. Like, this is a communal seat. I think we're seeing now in the wake of the Rona pandemic just how vital it is that we all don't put butt cheeks on the seat. Like, It's just a potential. For me, it was just like any exposed, but it wouldn't matter whoever it was. Like, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. What was the question again? Sorry, I'm fucking.
No, that's all good. So, like, let's say.
Would I go? So, would I go with my family? Yeah, I mean, look, to get basketball back, I don't mind it. I would just ask, like, please, like, put a napkin down, like, booty cheeks out, put a towel down, just on that physical seat. I was always like, booty cheeks on the seat, and like twerking, whatever. Go ahead and get it. Do you, boo? That's kind of my motto for life. Like, do you, like.
You just got to bring a mini fan to the game and point it in her direction so that, like, because I know you said doogie crumbs might be on the seat.
Doogie crumbs on the seat.
Crumbs. Keep your crumbs.
Nobody talks about this, but there's 20,000 people in an arena, right? There's at least 30,000 farts that are happening in that window. That's a lot. I mean, just think about it. Everybody's farting, like, and nobody's saying anything. Like, imagine, like, so many people have to fart, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like airplanes too. I love to like get one off on an airplane just because I feel like it never really travels that far.
Oh, that's where I'm scared, because the people sitting next to me, like, I feel like they're gonna know it's me. Or you don't care about that?
I mean,
it is what it is. You're stuck here regardless.
Most of the time anyway, so it's not like sometimes it makes it smell better. So it is what it is.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. You've been super generous. Again, just so you have the chance to properly plug the show, tell everyone, tell all the listeners where they can find you and where they can find the show.
So King Josiah 54 on Twitter and Instagram, and then Dunk Bait is at Dunk Bait on Twitter. We're every Monday around like 9 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Give you that morning fix for the West Coast. Definitely support us. We appreciate it. Yeah, highly recommended from here. And I might be, I don't know, I might have to figure out a way to join the show. But we'll talk about that after we finish recording. No, all right. Thanks, Josiah. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next time.